Hello, John.
Hello, Oliver.
We're living in a time of pandemics and epidemics and God knows what, okay? But in 1962, there was a laughter epidemic in Tanzania. And it was basically an outbreak began in a girls' school and spread to other communities with uncontrollable laughter affecting 1,000 people, lasting several months and causing the temporary closure of 14 schools. Most cases of mass psychogenic illness begin with a single individual. In this case, one girl likely fell into a fit of anxiety-induced laughter, setting in motion a chain effect until all the girls around her were engulfed in desperate laughter. Slowly it spread beyond their school and into the other populations. It sounds like fun.
It does, well, but now it happened in 1962.
Yes.
So, like, in other words, it was witnessed and analysed. But the important item that I noticed in it, that it was known as Tanzania. It was under the control of the British. And this all happened about a month before they were getting their independence, to be run by the people from that neck of the woods, the Africans or Africans, because it's in South Africa. So the British were there, so there was the schools that they were educated, which was at least good. But the fact that it was going to change, I think, would be a factor. And people would be worried, would they have the same ability of being educated and so on and so forth. You see, this is the colonial business that it's very hard to sort of often justify. They generally don't rule in a benign fashion. It's often in a kind of a malign fashion. So there's a combination of factors there, but to get to the truth, I'd say it'd be a tricky one, because don't forget you have Britain involved, and then you have the people that must have fought for freedom in that country. There must have been it wasn't just one of these peaceful things that happened, like the Berlin Wall at the time of the fall of the communism. It happened without too much violence. The only violence occurred in Hungary in 1956 with the Hungarian uprising, when Carlo Mincenti, you would know about him. I'm just digressing, talking about this business of what can happen. And he was jailed. I remember when I was young, the court case, with his haggard face. And when the Hungarian uprising happened in 56, he got sanctuary in the US Embassy and was there for years until he got free to go to the United States, I think. Mm-hmm. So that's a thought now. So we're talking about hysteria. So the fact that they were getting their independence, and probably there must have been some kind of, what would I call it, they didn't get it just handed on a plate. There must have been some revolutionary type of thing to bring it about. Like, there was a crowd called the Ma, I don't know for what country that was in, but the Ma they were called, and they were African rebels, and it's quite cruel. And we know that can happen there in Africa. They don't do it. It's Sudan has it. They're killing one another. And Rwanda had it, so but there wasn't too much laughter there. So this laughter, these were educated, so they weren't, they were getting an education, which in the general run of things, it's mostly Catholic missioners and nuns, and that they're still giving education to people in Africa, believe it or not. But this laughter business that we're talking about, and it spread to other schools, and other people suffered, because I saw the video and you could see them laughing. And laughter is often considered a good thing. Like, if we get a good comedy, we can laugh, but we don't spend our time laughing going home. Now, if I'm looking at a good comedy, I'll just give an example of laughter. And when I say a comedy, I'm talking about the old comedy. Say Charlie Chaplin, Modern Man, when he's in a factory and he's going like this and he's going fast, and then upstairs the boss tells the fella, switch on, make the machines go fast. And, so when I see that, and I might be in bed, and I might laugh too. So I hope I'm not suffering from something. But that's comedy. Comedy. But the business of laughing, you see, it didn't say that, I mean, did the laugh day and night. In other words, you do have to go to bed.
They say that it went on for anything from a few hours to up to 16 days.
Aye, well, they mention days, they don't mention night.
Yeah, so...
Or hardly a lot. You see, the information, it depends on the information that's given. People were laughing during the day, and it caught on to such a degree, because oftentimes when people are laughing, it's considered a good thing. Mm-hmm. Smile and the whole world smiles with you. Isn't that right? You often hear that phrase. Yeah. I don't know about laughing, the whole world laughing with you. That sounds like what happened there. When they say the whole world, the ones in that particular section. But I think it was an unusual occurrence. The heat would have something to do with it. That'd be a very hot spot. So if you want to try and find an explanation for it, I mean, if the sun is beating the head off you, okay, you're in school and you're getting an education and you wonder what you're going to do with the education now that the country is getting freedom. Will there be any jobs?
Yeah.
Or will you be just so? What do you do? Stress can induce all sorts of peculiar things in people. Usually it induces depression, but it can induce the other because you want an antidote. So it's very hard to know, but I think laughter, uncontrollable laughter like that, seems a very serious psychological problem.
It is, but I do remember in school, especially in primary school,
yeah,
if the teacher said, "Be quiet," and then if one laughed, okay, the whole classroom would start laughing, right?
I recall
and then and everybody remembers this in school, right?
Yeah.
And then what would happen is the teacher would get furious, okay, and then there'd be quietness, but then somebody would burst out again, and the whole class would start.
So correct.
Yeah,
I had the same experience.
Yeah.
Because, like, don't forget now, I don't know whether in your time, but in my time, they were using the stick and the cane, you know, there was the physical aspect of things. So you could have a reaction. If somebody did that, it wasn't long for it to be contagious.
Yeah.
Because, like, you were in some ways, where you were getting educated, it was a kind of a cruel environment.
Yeah.
And this business of chastisement with being putting your hand out or maybe getting a poke in the back or your ears. So all these things is not too helpful.
Yeah.
And so laughter was the only antidote to that. So you could, and I often saw at a dance, for example, if girls and geez, if one of them started laughing, geez, a lot of them might be at it. So you wouldn't know what to make of it. Yeah. Whether they thought the ones that were gawking across the other side of the floor, because that's the way it was. So you ever see such ugly looking bunch in all your life? And we burst into laughter. And then some of them wouldn't be so hot.
There's a funny video there of Boris Yeltsin and Bill Clinton. Aye. And you can see Bill Clinton breaks out into hysterical laughter. And the joke I don't think was particularly funny, but it became a kind of hysteria kind of thing.
It did.
And I suppose it's brought on probably as well by stress, probably.
Correct, because like if I'm in a democracy and then I'm dealing with a lad because my cut your throat as quick as look at you, because they were communists, you see. Yeah. But Yeltsin was one of the ones that when they got their kind of freedom, and he was a lad that was kind of fond of the alcohol, and the stronger the better. So I mean, he was often staggering. But he became the president, and he was actually one of their own in that sense, and so they kind of liked him, and it was a great break from the like of the authoritarian type of situation with Stalin and all that.
It was. I was talking to a Russian woman, and she's an elderly lady, and she says, you know, when Boris Yeltsin was the leader, the president of the country, your pension was never guaranteed. She says you could be without your money one week, you'll be money this week and no money next week. She says that's the way the whole thing was run. And that's why she says that when Putin came to power, everything was disciplined and everything was guaranteed. and that's why she preferred Putin, because it made put bread on her
funny
table.
enough, I prefer Putin because, like, you want a steady pair of hands.
That's right, yeah, absolutely.
If you're in a ship, you don't want a lad going full speed ahead and there's icebergs knocking about like the Titanic.
Exactly.
You know, take your time.
But I have to say, Yeltsin was good fun. If you remember the time he left the Irish government, he slept on the plane when he arrived drunk.
They're all standing.
He arrived to the right country too at the time.
But he didn't get off the plane. Sure, he couldn't. He might have stepped on the plane, but he couldn't step off. He'd be staggering.
That's right.
So I don't know what way they took him off when he got to Moscow. They probably had some kind of a stretcher, or maybe they come at night time and put the lights out so I wouldn't see what he was at, because he must have had to been carted off.
Yeah.
I mean, he wouldn't be able to walk down the steps.
Yes, indeed, John Malone. I think in Ireland we could do with a laughter epidemic. It's a funny subject.
You see, this is it, and but I think that this is why in Ireland you sort of, first of all, you need to cultivate friends that have a sense of humour. Keep away from the ones that sort of see the glass half empty when we see it half full. Do you get me drift? In other words, stop living in cuckoo land and seeing bad. There's a lot of good out there. I often now, for example, look out as it's coming eventime in this time, and I might see a glow in the sky and a sort of a lovely colour, and I say, thank God, look at that. Look, beauty. I'm noticing things now a lot more, and that's why I love Kerry, for example. All them mountains and the marvellous feeling of I don't know what. Certainly it induces something in yours truly. Now it ain't laughter, but it induces a feeling of good. Mm-hmm. And I'm not surprised the famous liberator come from there. The famous Father Hugh Venerable, and he should be a saint, Hugh O'Flaherty, the Monsignor, that the Vatican Pimpernel that saved all the Jewish people in that city when it was under the control of the Nazis or the Germans.
Yeah.
They keep calling them Nazis. They can't. They were on. They were Germans, weren't they? But they would be. They cut their throat as quick as look at you. So there was nearly a price on Hugh O'Flaherty's head, but he managed to evade him.
He did.
And saved umpteen people.
It's one of your. If anybody wants to watch the Scarlet Pimpernel, Hugh O'Flaherty, Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty, wasn't it?
That's right.
That's one of your most popular videos, by the way.
I'm not surprised because, like, he's a much loved person, and funny enough, the Irish prelates and priests have done such marvellous work abroad and all the rest of it. I'm learning more about what they did, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. There's more churches throughout the world named after St. Patrick than any other saint, as far as I know.
Yeah. So there you go, John. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much for that.